What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters. Welcome to Left to Metal. It's time for another What's Spinning for my car. I haven't done one of these in quite a while. I had a few people request to do one, and honestly, I'm always playing music in my car. Always got CDs in my car spinning. So to show what I've been spinning since the last time I did one of these would take hours, because I've been spinning a lot of stuff. So I just have this stuff that I've been spinning in the last couple weeks. I honestly carry a bag around with a bunch of CDs in it, and I just every day pull a different one out for a drive to work, drive from work, to the gym, wherever I'm going, I'm always playing CDs. So this one I've been playing quite a bit. This is a band who doesn't have a full-length album out yet. This is their demo from California, Crushing the Deceiver, kind of a thrash metal, death metal combination band. Let's see if I can get to some of the music here. Like I said, this is just a demo, but they'll have a full-length album coming out I think in 2018 on Rox Records, Rox Productions. So I'm actually wearing their t-shirt, and these guys are great. If you like that kind of, the music's definitely got a thrash vibe to it, but the vocals are a little more guttural than average thrash. So it's kind of got that death metal vibe as well. So you kind of get a mixture of the both. Anyhow, very good stuff. Looking forward to hearing the full-length album. If I'm not mistaken, I think James Murphy of Testament fame, among others, is helping them with the recording of their new album. So, very cool. Moving on, this is one I just showed in a recent video. Australian band Angel City, or The Angels in most of the world, but in the US they're called Angel City. And just this great, Big Bop Boom describes them as pub rock, and that's a perfect description. They kind of have the intensity and the riffing of AC/DC, but they have also this kind of punk edge, punk vibe to them. Just great, straight ahead rock and roll, like I said, pub rock, good stuff. Really enjoying this one. I probably think, I mean, the whole album is really good, but I think in particular the song Shadow Box is just a really cool song. So, as far as a lot of glare, it's definitely sunny out here in New Mexico in the 70s. Trees are all starting to turn yellow and leaves are falling finally. Actually, we're in November now, so we don't really get much of a fall, because it just goes from summer to winter pretty much. Next up, Spellcaster, another California band. This one here is one of the new wave of traditional heavy metal band. This is their third album, 2016 release. Unfortunately, I think this band has since split, so this third album will probably be their last album. Very good band. I really like these guys. I think they stand heads and tails above a lot of the new wave of traditional heavy metal bands. I think I might even talked about them not too long ago in my new wave of traditional heavy metal videos, so I'm trying to remember to put a link to that if you haven't seen it. One of the bands that made heavy metal and power metal strong through the 1990s, when heavy metal was dead and everybody was proclaiming metal was dead, but Hammerfall was one of those bands that kept traditional heavy metal alive. A lot of people call them power metal, but they don't have that you know, European power metal sound. They're not saturated with keyboards. They're not singing every song about, you know, dragons. It's not oversaturated with double bass. It's just heavy metal, and very good heavy metal. I love Hammerfall, and I think this is one of their better albums too. I think their first three albums are just brilliant. They're probably their best, but this one stands heads and tails with those three albums. So this is Built to Last from 2017 or 16, right? 2016. Excuse me. This is D.O.G, Disciples of God Unleashed. This is a kind of a Motorhead-ish meets Metallica style band with that's headed by Terry Russell, formerly of Holy Soldier. He was a drummer in Holy Soldier. He's a drummer in this band, but he also is the vocalist in this band. And I'm gonna head and stick a song in here so you can hear this, guys. Metallica on the radio. I don't really listen to the radio much, but it seems like every time I turn on the local radio station, here Metallica's on there. So this is D.O.G, Disciples of God. This is a song called Unleashed. There you go. That's a little bit of D.O.G Unleashed. This album cover was designed, actually, this is a Rocks release, but I didn't design this record cover. I did lay it out for him and I helped to clean it up, but it was actually designed by Bill Bafford. Next up is a classic. Speaking of death metal, to me this is, I know these guys are considered like the fathers of death metal, but this album here is to me it's just really technical thrash metal. Even Chuck's vocals aren't, you know, as guttural and death metal as what death metal is now known as. This is actually was an all-star band here. So you've got Chuck, of course, who is death on guitar and vocals, but then you've got let's see, there's Gene Hoglan, who of course came out of Dark Angel at the time, and he's been in various other bands ever since. I think did he play in Testament too? I can't remember, but he's played in a bunch of different bands. Excuse me. And then what's the bass player's name? DiGiorgio, Steve DiGiorgio. Anyhow, he was from Sadist. He's also played in Iced Earth, among others. But before this, he was in Sadist. So kind of an all-star band. And then you've got, what's his name? Andy LaRocque, who is right there, who plays some lead. I don't think he was actually ever in the band. I think he, because from what I've read from Gene Hoglan, Gene's never even met Andy LaRocque. So I think he just played some leads on this album and was considered a band member just for the album. But I don't even think he ever toured with the band. I think Gene and Steve toured with the band on this album, but that was it. So great album, classic Death, in my opinion. I think the last two Death albums are two of their best albums. Individual Thought Patterns, definitely. If I was to pick a favorite, it would be at the top of my list, at least top one or two. Simple, straightforward, dig it. This one I've listened to quite a bit as well. This is Love Life, and this is Goodbye Lady Jane. I know it's a pretty terrible name for a band, but for those who don't know, the band Fear Not that I've been talking about over and over again because it's being released on vinyl for the first time on Rocks, this is their first album. They changed their name after this album. Got a new guitar player, got another record contract, and changed their name to Fear Not from Love Life. But the style of music here, very similar to what you're going to get on the Fear Not album. And the vocals are just almost identical, which is awesome. I really like, I'm having a hard time remembering his name. It's ridiculous because I talked to him, Larry Worley. Sorry, Larry. I really like Larry Worley's vocals. It just fits perfectly the style of, I don't know, I kind of call him like Skid Row meets Slaughter style of you know, hard rock, 80s heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this album is great. It's really hard to find. Finding a copy on CD is very difficult. I've seen copies on Discogs and eBay, all of them over $100, which is just nuts if you ask me. But again, I'm pretty sure this one might be getting re-released in the next year or so. So if you like the Fear Not album, you're probably gonna like the Love Life album too. Goodbye Lady Jane. You know, why don't I just stick a little bit of that one in too while we're at it. So that was D.O.G. that was kind of playing in the background before. This album was released, what, 1990, I think? On Blonde vinyl recordings. Picture of the band. Another track here. Oops. It kind of has that sleazy LA vibe. Very good stuff. So, you know, gives you an idea what the sound is. Like I said, kind of that sleazy, I don't know, I call it pop metal, whatever you want to call it, 80s hard rock. Okay, moving on. This is Bjorn Stigson and Friends. This is a solo album from Leviticus guitar player Bjorn Stigson. Features Sonny Larson and Peo, who were both a part of Leviticus at one time or another. Just different vocalists, but it's still the same style of 80s, early 80s hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. I hadn't heard this one in a long time, so I wanted to just give it a spin. You know, I was getting into the early Leviticus albums again. I just hadn't heard this in a while, so I pulled it out, gave it a couple spins in the car. This is a new album from Romeo Riot. Not bad. I was kind of expecting, with the name of the album being Sing It Loud and the wall of amps in the background, that was going to have that kind of edge like you hear here. You know, it kind of has that raw guitar sound that. I like the song. I'm sorry. Anyhow, but it's kind of more on the AOR side of things. You know, it's got keyboards as loud as the guitars. The keyboards kind of mellow things out a little bit. You don't kind of get the raw rock and roll edge that you would if it was a little less keyboard driven. It's not a bad album by any choice, by any matter. You know, I do like the album. Vocals are great. The songs are catchy. It's just, I would have liked a little more edge on the guitar, a little more of a raw sound rather than such a studio perfect sound. You know, I don't know. I kind of call it glossy sound. But yeah, anyhow, new album from Romeo Riot. Kaival Records, 2017 release. If you're looking for a copy, I don't know, you can get it on Amazon, I'm pretty sure. This one's been in my car all freaking year. This one will make my top 10 for sure this year. I can't stop playing it, but this is the new Overkill. I've played this thing more times than I can even remember. Just not a bad song on here. This is classic Overkill. I mean, it sounds to me like Overkill, you know? Is it as good as the 80s albums? I think it is. I think it's great. You got everything on here from groove to thrash to, you know, all those styles that Overkill has always excelled at. I really think this is one of their best albums in a long time. Even though I did like the last albums and they made my list as well, I can't remember one in recent years, maybe from the Underground and below, but I can't remember another album that I played as much as I played this one this year. So anyhow, Overkill, the Grinding Wheel, great album. Have it on vinyl and CD, just like it that much. Excuse me. Little guitar pyrotechnics there. Anyhow, got a lot to show them, but keep going. Fireball Ministry, they have a new album out, and I was listening to the new album in my house, but just really got me to thinking of this album, and I still think that this album here, released on Nuclear Blast back in 2003, quite a while ago now, that this is just a darn good album. Not a song on here I don't love, but this is some classic stuff. King, The Sinner, Flatline. I saw them twice on this tour, once by themselves and then once opening for Ronnie James Dio, and man, they just captured my attention on stage. They're one of those bands that I liked this album when I first got it, and as you can see, I got it from a friend, bought it for $1.99, sent it to me, and I listened to it and I really liked it. But then I saw them in concert and I really connected with it. Man, they were just great live. There was just something about the two guys and two girls up on stage that just, they sounded so good together. The vocals blended together. The riffs were heavy. Matter of fact, Janice Tanaka was the bass player. There's a little note from her that she sent me in the mail. She's no longer in the band, but she was when I saw them those two times, and man, she was just commanded the stage. There's a drawing of her there. Bass drummer still in the band, same drummer. Emily Burton, guitar player, still in the band. And then, of course, the Reverend James A. Rhoda II right here. He, of course, is the band, and he is still with them as well and on the new album. So really only the bass player has changed out, and I think they've had a different bass player on just about every single album they've put out. So anyhow, great. People call it, you know, I don't know, doom metal. People call it, I don't know, it's just heavy rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it, you know. Some of the songs are slower, you kind of get that doomy vibe, but it's really not doom. I've heard some people call it stoner rock, but whatever. Everything that's called stoner rock doesn't sound the same to me, neither does doom. So just very good stuff. Matter of fact, I know this one won't get me a copyright, but there's just some great riffs on here. And I love the vocals too. The mix of the back, especially the background vocals. People say it kind of sounds like Ozzy, and I think he does at times. I'm gonna skip the little intro. You kind of get the idea. It's just got that massive riffing. That's King. This is the singer. That's the kind of riffing here. People were saying kind of has that doom vibe. Anyhow, I really like this band. I've seen them several times since this tour. They're always great. One of my favorite times seeing was at a little club in Albuquerque. Nobody was there. And the only reason I knew about the show is because I was following it on their website when they were playing. So I went. The club did absolutely zero advertising for the show. I didn't even see any posters or flyers at the club for the show. I literally was the only person that showed up for the show. They played an entire performance for me. It was awesome. You know, a few people straggled in here and there into the club and watched them, but they didn't come to see the band like I did. Matter of fact, I even helped them load their equipment in and load it back out again. So I ended up, all of them gave me a guitar pick, and I had them all sign a big poster that I still have framed in my room. So it was a cool experience for me, even if it was bizarre that nobody else showed up. All right, so what else we got here? I don't know, classic from 1980, of course, Judas Priest. I don't know, I saw something that got me into a Priest mood, and when I get into those moods, I tend to just start going through their albums from the beginning to end, and this is kind of where I left off at, 1980, British Steel. I always thought they kind of dumbed down their sound for this album, not the whole album. This doesn't have the same vibe as the 70s stuff does, but I mean, songs like Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight, which were the two hits on this album, were kind of just more simplistic, and I hate to say dumbed down because that makes it sound bad, but just didn't have the same complexity as the early stuff. But this also has songs like Stealer, which is one of my absolute favorite songs from Judas Priest. Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, classic Charleston and Grinder, all great stuff. Classic album cover as well, of course. And what else we got here? Two more. I need to replace the case on this one. Got a little beat up in the mail, but this is Entropy E, I believe, or was it E to the third, E3. This is Canadian thrash metal, very raw, very biting, great stuff. Once again, I need to pop some in for you guys to hear it. This was a recent VCLT from Noise Spectrum, who also sent me their one of their other albums. the kind of stuff that makes me put the pedal to the metal. Driving to work, listen to this, pump you up. Definitely on the way home from work when I'm all pumped to get home. Anyhow, Entropy, Canadian thrash metal. This album is, I believe, a brand new album, 2017 or at least 16. I don't see a date on here anywhere. Let's see. Nah, I don't see a date on here anywhere. Anyhow, great band. If you can find this one, grab it. If you're into thrash metal, it's a fantastic album from them. And then finally, speaking of thrash metal, excuse me once again. Just dry cough, allergies. The latest from Creator, Gods of Violence. I think that's one of Creator's favorite words, violence. Certain bands just seem to have certain words that they, use over and over again in songs. When I think of Metallica, I think of the word death. They use it over and over again. Creator, it's violence. Everything's about violence. Violence. But yeah, anyhow, this is one in a group of the last 4 albums that have just been spectacular, in my opinion. Fantastic production. Fantastic riffing. It's not all about speed. There is a lot of speed there, and there's a lot of thrash, but it's just about metal, and it's very good metal. I would even call it, thrash meets power metal at times. Very different from the early stuff. If you're looking for that more raw, early, 80s German style thrash metal, you're not going to get that here. It's not exactly the same as that. A lot of that had to do with poor recordings, as much as just young guys cranking it out. But here you're going to get just a band who's heavy and writes great songs, great riffs, and Mile's vocals are still as mean as they ever were, Let's destroy this place. If you get a chance to see Creator live, man, they're just fantastic. So, anyhow, Creator, Gods of Violence. This one will probably make my list for 2017 as well. Still don't have the vinyl on this. I'd like to get it, but can't get everything, right? So, anyhow, that's some of the stuff I've been spinning in the car for the last month or two. Thanks for all those who requested one of these videos. It had been a while since I've done one. I have a lot more to show that I've been spinning in my car. These are just some of the ones I've been spinning more recently. Some friends have sent me CDs to listen to, which I have. They're probably already sitting in a pile in my room to get reviewed on No Life Till Metal. So that's it. God bless. Stay strong.